call to order the Hermiston City Council on Urban Renewal Agency for May 24th, 2021, with a declaration of can't even say it's a quorum, can I? Oh, barely, because I classify, so a declaration of a quorum, just barely this evening. It's a little bit light this evening for those of you that are attending online. There are 4 counselors and myself, the mayor, here this evening. Some illness going around, so non-COVID related though, I believe. There's some sore throats and what's that disease called? Strep throat. Yes, that's been going around a little bit too. So anyway, some springtime allergy stuff. So we've seen some sick counselors recently. So we're going to excuse Counselor Peterson, Counselor Primer, Counselor Davis, and Counselor Myers. So please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So as a reminder to the counselors and those of you that are in attendance in the audience, we do televise this. It's online at our YouTube station. And when you do speak, please turn your microphone on so that the people on the video can also hear. It's piped in that way. They cannot hear you if your microphone's not on. So we're going to start out with a presentation this evening. And I see Pastor Terry Haight here this evening from the Hermiston Assembly of God to talk about I Love My City event. Please come up. Let us know how it went.
Thank you. Well, I just want to thank the mayor and city council for inviting us tonight and to share what happened at the beginning of the month of May and the first weekend of May. We had, I would say, I guess this would be our 5th annual I Love My City citywide type outreach. It's hard to believe it was September 2016 when I first stood before you and when we first brought this forward, and after a weekend of doing this. And since that time until now, we have about 9 churches that have been participating, plus businesses. And we're just excited about what the future holds as well, and I'll share that in just a moment. On this particular outreach, I believe there's a video. Maybe we can show that, and then I'll explain a little bit more. Thank you for showing that. What I'm loving about this is, if you remember in 2016 when we first came and shared this effort, as you know, just coming from the faith-based community here in our city, just the idea that God loves our city, and we love the things that God loves, and therefore we love our city. The premise that we use is love your neighbor as yourself. And little did we realize that when we first made this effort in 2016, that it would really take on a life of its own. We were just doing it as a single church, just to love our city, through acts of service, whether it was a free car wash or whether it was giving away water at a soccer game or throwing a block party and having games for kids or cleaning up an area. And it was right after that first initial event that we received. I don't know if, all I knew was that on the way to that first event, my wife asked me, she said, "Did we call the newspaper?" And I said, "No, we did not," which would have been good common sense to do to begin with. But fortunately, one of the members of the paper was driving up 395 and saw these red T-shirts and stopped and began making interviews. And by the time it hit the paper on Monday, I started getting calls from other pastors saying, "What just happened?" And then I got an email from the city council saying, "What just happened?" And so now we're 5 years later, and again, we're 8 churches here, strong doing this. The efforts that we did this year was, of course, the downtown area and the railroad, which we've done that each year as well, cleaning up along the railroad tracks between Highland and Elm. Butte Park was a new area that we went to this year, as well as at the end of part of Belt Park, but across from the Regency Care Center, that area. Oxbow Trail, that whole trail from Waterfront Park to 11th Street. And then, of course, the area right here in front of the community center, near Obie's, that walking path park there, Rotary Park. And so what I'm excited, though, too, coming up, is that later this summer, I think the council has heard about City Fest, and in that, we're trying to actually coordinate on a bigger scale with over 40 churches in about a 50-mile radius to begin to do their own I Love My City effort as we build toward that event at the end of August as well. And so the Lewis Plow Association is coming along. They do this anywhere they go, but being that we're already established, they're saying, can we come in and just support and help and develop and give you creative ideas? And so that's where we're at this time. And I'm looking forward to that, looking forward to learning from them as well on some creative ideas to impact people of our city in a very meaningful way. So that's what I have to report tonight.
Well, Pastor Haight, we appreciate your service to this organization. I don't know if it's a formalized organization or just an ad hoc kind of committee that you've put together, but the efforts that you and the I Love My City event have created really make a difference, and our city looks better as a result. I think people feel better as a result. You create value in your community, create value in people and public service. It's really a meaningful message, and one that doesn't, it's not taken lightly. I mean, I think it's very valuable to our community, and it's something I hope we continue indefinitely.
Yes.
Because I think it's a very worthwhile project to our community and in our residents and constituents, and so it's something we look forward to every year. Did we do it last year?
Yes, we did actually, but it was
Okay.
later in the year in September.
Right.
Things were,
A little more open.
a little bit more open.
Yeah,
but,
it was just kind of a weird time. Normally we do it in the spring, kind of as a spring
Right.
cleaning kind of event.
Yeah.
And
We did it, we had fewer volunteers that time, of course, but in the same token, there were several that were just eager to say, hey, can we do something,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's fluctuated. I think the first couple of years we may have had between 300 and 400 volunteers. I think this one we just had was a little over 200 volunteers, and as we're still kind of coming out of this era. And so, in this time too, we were actually spread out over more parts of the city this time, about six different major locations, parks and things like that. But which I really appreciated that, with the coordination of Larry Fetter, of course, taking direction from him and saying, where is your greatest need? And then he gave us direction, and we as pastors just kind of began to organize it that direction. So, yeah.
It does make an immediate impact, and you can drive by and visibly see the change and the difference that you're making. And some of the things that people don't realize, though, too, is the free car washes are free.
Right.
Right. You also wash clothes or help
Yes.
clean up houses, and you do other
Yeah.
projects besides.
We
just
call it
the-
laundry love.
Yeah.
You walk in with a couple $100 worth of quarters and spend them freely. People walking in just saying, we love our community. We want to bless you. We've had very few, if any, people turn that down. Usually they're just surprised, I remember when I first started calling the managers or owners of the laundromats here. There's about 4 of them here. And at first it was like a question like, what is this? I've never heard this before. But once they realized it, you felt like you just told someone they won the jackpot, They said, wow, that would be great. Please do that, And so we always let them know before we come in so they understand what's happening. But no, it has really met a lot of needs, And we try to encourage people that, I Love My City is not just an event, but it's a lifestyle. And just saying, listen, you don't have to do it on this day of the year, but we just encourage you to be thoughtful and think about it throughout the year, of course. But we do free car washes. We do the laundry love. We try to hit every laundromat here in Hermiston. Various things like that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your partnership with the city, specifically the Parks and Rec Department, because, as we've grown, our parks has also grown, and so it always needs a little tender, loving care now and then, and so it's definitely noticed. And please tell the other 8 churches as well. We value them and appreciate their commitment as well. And hopefully as we do come out of this COVID thing, it gets bigger and bigger again, because I know it's an event that people look forward to. And I've attended the service on Sunday, and it's had over 1,000 before.
Yes.
And so it's something that's needed right now very much and missed. So we look forward to the growth of that in the future as well. Any other comments from the counselors? Yes, Maria?
I guess event is that children, young adults, families can serve. And I like it because then, if there's an issue with language, kindness knows no boundaries. So everyone, whoever wants to join in, is able to help out. So I am glad that as the years go by, more and more people want to be involved. Certainly, our church looks forward to the day when we're able to come out and be able to be visible, let the community know that we want to make an impact. So I am glad that you as pastors came up with the concept, and that Mr. Federer is also very open and willing to help out with your efforts. So thank you so much for what you guys do for our community.
And I just want to say to that as well, of course, working more directly with Larry Fetter, I just really appreciate, and I know he represents you, the council, and the mayor, but just the openness and the generosity, just at, not only just identifying areas of need and saying, can you go after that, but just providing us the resources to do it as well. And I know a lot of the city workers work on that day when it's typically their day off, I believe, and just providing us a stage, and we have a service the next day that we do a kind of a celebration, and we try to encourage everybody in attendance. I asked Larry to say, hey, can you convey what the value to the city it is when people serve, and just trying to encourage more of that. And but no, the city has been so generous and with arms wide open just to allow us to partner and be a part of what's going on in the city. And so for that, I say thank you. That's been quite a blessing in that regard.
Well, we appreciate your leadership. You provide us the foundation on which we can support you, and along with that leadership, the city will be glad to continue that partnership. I think it's one that is valued by our constituents as well as the council in general, and so we look forward to more greater endeavors in the future. So thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we are at our first opportunity in our agenda for citizen input. Any non-agenda items, so items that aren't on our current agenda that you would like to speak to, please come up to the microphone up front, introduce yourself by name and address, direct your comments to me, and try to limit them to less than 5 minutes. Come on up.
Virginia Brown Garcia, 435 East Sunset Drive, Hermiston, Oregon.
There you go.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And I'm here from the Hermiston Cultural Awareness Club that we are going to be having our second annual Juneteenth gathering, and it'll be Saturday, June 19th from 4 to 8 at McKinsey Park. We're just inviting the community. We're going to be having some barbecue, hot dogs, hamburgers, and fun activities, and we'll have a presentation on what Juneteenth is all about. I think it's wonderful to have the other groups involved, and I love the idea of having the I Love My City events going on once or twice a year. I think it brings the community together and shows a lot of unity, shows a lot of power within us to be able to do something for the community, and this is what we're looking at. Right now, the climate, is so hard to deal with at the moment. I know I myself have been threatened 2 times already since January, and it's not a good feeling. But with us all getting together and working and having to work our dynamics and work with our community and have an understanding and just bring education forward and bring the unity of the community together, I think is the only way that we're going to be able to work through some of these community issues that we're having at the moment. But we would like to invite the community and the board or the council to this event, and it's our second annual. We're thinking about having it at Greenwood Park, but it's too small, so that's why we decided at McKinsey Park. But we appreciate it, and thank you for letting me speak on this.
So Virginia, that's June 19th, McKenzie
19th.
Park. What time?
4 to 8.
4 to 8 in the evening.
4 in the afternoon, 4 p.m. to 8.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any others this evening? Okay, on to the consent agenda. Items A through F. Any of those that the council needs to pull? Seeing none, is there any public comment on consent agenda items A through F? I don't see any. Can I get a motion to approve consent agenda items A through F?
So move.
Second.
It's been motioned by Councilor Duran, seconded by Councilor Spicer-Coon, that we approve consent agenda items A through F. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Public hearings this evening. Mr. Smith, we're tabling the amendment hearing for 1.5.
Yeah, so we're actually going to withdraw this proposed amendment. We intend to go back and take a little closer look at it, maybe change the approach a little bit, so it'll require a new hearing in front of the Planning Commission before it would come to the council. So this one, we want to terminate the process.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, so we'll move on to Resolution 2180, awarding my computer's slow to upload. We are awarding a construction contract for the South Hermiston Industrial Park. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I'll ask Mr. Morgan to do this item.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes, typically I wouldn't give this much of a update on just a regular contract award, but this is a project that we've been working on as a city for several years, so just wanted to give you all a bit of an update on the process so far, particularly for the newer councilor members. This is just an aerial of the city. Looking at the yellow areas, generally the South Hermiston Industrial Park that we're referring to down around Pioneer Seed and Walmart Distribution Center. Now, back in 2017, 2018 timeframe, there's actually a lot that happened on the industrial land development front that we don't typically see in normal years. In 2017, you'll remember that's when Hermiston Foods announced their closure, ending about 325 positions at that location. Also, at that same time, there were two kind of coexisting land transactions that we helped to facilitate there. One there along Kelly Boulevard, right across Kelly from the Walmart Distribution Center, and then a 40-acre parcel there next to Pioneer Seed. Additionally, right around that same time frame, we started getting inquiries from some of the property owners there along Campbell Drive, seeking to add some, purchase some additional ground behind their property that they have out there. And so through all of those transactions, some of which we had some control over, some of which we just had to go along for the ride on, we realized that we were rapidly losing any ability to accommodate some of our smaller scale industrial developments. Particularly, I think long term, we had always envisioned this area here is about 80 acres there along Kelly Boulevard down to Feedville Road. That would have generally continued the same kind of small 1 to 5 acre industrial parcelization down that road, because there was existing utilities and that type of thing there. And also because it wasn't being irrigated at the time, there weren't any water rights on it. It was much easier to parcelize down into. But once we got a number of these transactions that occurred, we really needed to figure out something else to be able to accommodate smaller scale industrial development to support really the larger scale industrial development and really maintain some of these larger industrial tracts when we do get companies that come along and that need more 40, 50, 60, 70 acres at a time. So again, really the entire concept here is trying to facilitate small acreage light industrial. This just kind of shows the general tax lots that exist down there along Kelly Boulevard, Campbell. This is the unpaved portion of Campbell currently, and then this is an existing right-of-way for Southeast 10th, which has really just existed on paper for a number of years. The project that we ended up coming up with is to finish paving Campbell down to Penny, not putting any utilities in that, because the properties on either side can be served with utilities either in Campbell or with new utilities in Southeast 10th, and then paving Southeast 10th up 395, paving a new street into these 40 acres, which is owned by the Port of Umatilla, and adding water lines in Southeast 10th, sewer mains in Southeast 10th, and then water and sewer mains into the Port of Umatilla's property as shown. So of course we had to come up with a way to pay for all of that. We began working with the U.S. Economic Development Administration back in late 2017, trying to identify some potential funding. It looked like we would be eligible because of the layoffs with Hermiston Foods for a 50% grant to help fund those improvements. Anderson Perry Engineering initially estimated the total cost on the project to be a high-level estimate in the ballpark of around $3 million. So the City Council approved Local Improvement District number 322, which basically levies a portion of those costs for the total project on all of the benefiting properties. So those properties, there's 20 parcels in there that would be benefiting from these improvements. It's a good deal for them. They're getting these improvements for about 40 cents on the dollar because we're able to leverage the USCDA grant funding. Additionally, the City of Hermiston and Umatilla County also came in recognizing that we'd be putting those improvements in and levying some of the cost on the adjoining properties. We came in to also help buy down the total cost of those projects by committing to contribute about $300,000 towards the project. So this in the bidding environment this spring, I think it's, everybody's heard stories about COVID-related supply chain disruptions from factories being closed and those types of things. So there was some concern there. But additionally, a major portion of this project is really all piping. There's PVC piping that will be going in for the sewer mains, but then also ductile iron has been seeing a lot of supply chain issues. So what we did was in order to make sure that we got enough bids come in, we did a relatively rare thing, which was we allowed for an escalation clause, specifically for the PVC and the ductile iron pipe, which basically allows bidders to place a bid, and then if their costs rise for that specific item that they're ordering. If their vendor isn't willing to hold their prices for too long, and then their prices go up by more than 10% from what they bid, then we're saying we recognize that it's difficult to bid in this environment, so we will go ahead and pay you your costs. But obviously, we have to put a lot of effort into tracking and monitoring that. That's why it's pretty rare to allow that to occur. We did get 4 bids. All of them were within $100,000 of the engineer's estimate, which was $1.7 million. Tapany Inc. was the low bidder at $1.6 million. Really a nice tight grouping of bids. So Tapany is the low bidder that we're recommending to award the contract to. So now looking forward from here, trying to get an idea of what the remaining project costs will be. Tapany's contract will be $1.6 million. Typical contingency at this stage of a project of about 10%. Design engineering, we've already spent about $150,000, and then we also hire Anderson Perry to do construction oversight and management of the project. So it's looking right now with that base bid from Tapany that the total project would really only come out to about just over $2 million compared to our original estimate of $2.9 million. We did also have Anderson Perry run just an estimate on what would be a worst case scenario if they really did see a material price escalation. And so even accounting for a 20% escalation in material costs would still put us under budget from what our original cost estimates were, somewhere between $550,000 and $860,000. So the timeline from here, after awarding the contract, the contractor anticipates mobilizing on site to begin breaking ground in early July. Really should be a pretty quick project. It's really straightforward, quite simple project. So they should be complete around the end of October. And then also, a number of you have been aware of the project that we've been working on with our auto parts distribution warehouse that's going in down there. They anticipate being complete with their building down in the South Hermiston Industrial Park on October 31st. So this was a picture just from today of Meyer Distributing's work that's going on out there. They're starting to form up some foundations out there in our industrial park. So like I said, it's a lot more in-depth than I typically get on just a contract award, but wanted to make sure that you were all brought up to speed on this project that we've been working on for several years.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. One of the questions I had was the agreement with the landowners. They pay essentially the cost of the project, right, or their percentage of the cost. So if the project costs are less, they'll end up paying less as well, right?
Yeah, so when we form the local improvement district, basically what we do is the city fronts most of the money. In this case, we're getting about 50% of the cost from EDA, but we go out, construct the improvement, and then at the end of the project, after all of the costs are known, then we sit down, do a full accounting, and then we just simply allocate all of the actual costs based on the same formula that we did the original estimate on, which was basically their frontage on each of the individual improvements. So if the project comes in cheaper, then they pay less.
Yeah, that's a win for them as well.
Yeah.
So great. Good news,
Yeah.
actually, especially in this kind of environment right now. Construction costs are not known to be low right now.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of it was Anderson Perry had done that original $2.9 million estimate. It was very high level, even knowing, though, that really they're just going to be digging through topsoil and undisturbed. It's going to be a very simple project out there.
Any other questions from the council? Councilor Burrow?
Yeah, I guess my question, I think, might have been answered already by Mr. Morgan, but I remember this project. This was probably like the first project, as my personal experience as a counselor, that I came across with, and I know the application to the EDA was very tedious, and it did come under budget, which is really, really great. Great for our citizens, great for the people involved. I guess my question is, how did that happen? How did it come so low? I guess considering like the factors that we see now with the supply chain and everything else.
Yeah, so like I said, Anderson Perry had originally estimated that with a 30% contingency originally, and so that inflates part of their costs because they don't want to be high. Also, they were using an inflationary assumption of 4% per year, assuming that it would be constructed actually in 2022, because we originally did this cost estimate back in 2018, and so they knew that it was going to be some time before it was actually constructed but then they didn't, so they threw in some automatic inflationary assumptions in there. So that's part of it. And then the other part being, I'll be interested to see if we do see a price escalation request from the contractor. They may have been able to bid really, really tight on, the base bid, knowing that they'll be able to come in and ask for an increase. So that's where when you assumed a 20% increase on materials, that took us up a lot closer to about 2.5 million. So we'll be continuing to watch it really closely through the project, but I think in general, I think we anticipate that it'll come in pretty well under budget. Just hard to tell where.
Thank you, and thank you to Anderson Perry as well for the estimates and all the job that they did on this project.
So I guess I'm unclear on the cost escalator. How does the city protect itself from an underbid and then asking for a cost escalation later so that they could just get the job? How does it?
Yeah, so that's
work?
why you'll notice I showed in there that we have about $130,000 still on construction management, basically, and so that's what we pay Anderson Perry to manage a lot of these projects for us. And so when the contractors submit bids, they have to submit specific detailed bids for each one of their items, and so there's a very prescribed form that they go in and they fill out. Here's exactly what our bid was, and then they also had to submit where their vendor that they would be receiving those materials from and show what those bids were at the time. And then on the back end, if they come in and they say, well, my pipe supplier says it's going to be 15% more, then we make sure that they verify that, send that to us, and then we also have the ability to ask them to go potentially get a couple of other quotes from some other vendors. So.
Gotcha. Very good.
So it's, like I said, it's pretty rare, mainly because it does take a lot more effort,
Right.
but with all that effort, you can still keep track of those costs.
Yeah. Very good. And, the bids were pretty tight, so you got to assume that they're all right there. So, any other questions of Mr. Morgan?
Yeah, I guess what other interest do you have in the lots up there other than the distribution company that's already going in? Has a lot of people been seeking to get in up there and get small industrial businesses started?
Yeah, so let me see. So this just kind of shows the tax lots up there. I used to show an aerial back from 1994 of that area, and then I'd show it, now. And so just kind of the nature of, these industrial parcels is that they fill up about once every 2 or 3 years. It's not quite like a, residential subdivision where they go in and, all of them are sold really quickly. So we already kind of know that the timelines are relatively long. But what's interesting is there's been pretty active interest in this 8-acre parcel that the Port of Umatilla had owned. I believe that has since been sold here just in the last year or so. That abuts both the Campbell Drive paving as well as the water and sewer and paving on Southeast 10th. Additionally, there's been some significant inquiries from an existing customer up in that area. Their engineer's been working with city staff looking to develop one of their other parcels that they own out there for an expansion that fronts on both Campbell and on Southeast 10th as well. Also, there's been a developer who's done a lot of work here in the city, who's been working pretty closely with the port for the past couple of years, looking at potentially taking down the entire 40-acre parcel that they have, and looking to ultimately develop it themselves and sell those lots, later on for development. And then also there's been some interest in really these lots fronting on 395 for some other small development. So if nothing else, it's certainly piquing a lot of interest and a lot of inquiries for those existing landowners out there.
The one thing I found, in my short experience with government and, sitting at the table in the conversations, government provides a lot of infrastructure, the skeleton for development. And when you do projects like this, they seem to mature more quickly. And so just like our water tower project has helped facilitate the growth and development that we're seeing in the northeast quadrant of town as well. And so I think the city, when we look back at this project 5 years ago and the loss of Hermiston Foods, was how do we realize and capture some potential future industrial development in space? So breaking this up, what does the future look like should this space become occupied? What else is available around Hermiston?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question for us a few years from now, I suppose. But it's a good question. Just like we didn't expect the parcel there along Kelly to all of a sudden, be sold kind of right out from under our noses. It's hard to tell what some of these other parcels might, develop. The Hermiston Foods, former Hermiston Foods property, they still have, it's about 23 acres. It's not, perfectly square, but there's some potential to potentially break that up into some smaller parcels. Also, there's, about 20 acres back here south of Pioneer Seed that I think, in my mind, I've been assuming could, sell off in smaller, maybe 5 to 10 acre chunks. But if we run out of all of these ones up here, that's possible. But there's also some small parcels up in the airport property that we have available. So I think we're pretty good for a number of years. But like we've seen, it's been 4 or 5 years since we started this project. So we do have to be thinking ahead for those.
The next one. Yeah, very good. Well, thank you, Mark. Any other questions, council? Okay. Any public comment on Resolution 2180? Okay, so I would take a motion to adopt Resolution 2180 and lay it upon the record.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Barone, seconded by Councilor Duran, that we accept Resolution 2180 and lay it upon the record. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. We needed all 4 of you. So, very good. All right, so we're not going to do anything on ordinance number 2320 or 2321 this evening, right, Mr. Smith?
That's correct. We need at least 5 counselors to take action on any ordinance. So we will bring those back to the next council meeting.
Now, is that a charter requirement or is that a state requirement?
It's in our charter.
Okay. So according to our Hermiston City Charter, we have to have a majority of a quorum. No, we have to have at least 5 counselors of 8 to pass an ordinance, and they would all have to vote in favor of to pass an ordinance. Well, we don't have more than 5 counselors this evening. I don't count in voting for ordinances. So we are going to table ordinance number 2320 and 2321 till next city council meeting. Adoption of the city wayfinding program. Mr. Smith.
Yes, I'll ask Mr. Spencer to walk us through this item.
Mr. Spencer.
Yeah, thanks for having me tonight. So just want to briefly touch on some of the basic elements of a wayfinding program and then have some slides just of some of the overall standards that we're doing. The wayfinding project is something that started as an urban renewal project to promote our downtown and especially to direct to our public parking lots early in the process. As we started kind of scoping out whether or not that was the appropriate use of the wayfinding program, it kind of grew into all of the public facilities that are tourist destinations need to be part of the wayfinding program, whether that's EOTech, whether that's Kennison Field with all of the college and regional sporting events. There are a lot of things that go on in this town. A lot of people come to the pool. A lot of people come from out of town to go to the hospital. So as we entered the wayfinding program, we really started thinking, what are our goals here? And the goal really was to, as I said, get to those public destinations, but also to figure out where are people going in the city, which led to the creation of 3 separate districts. There's your downtown district, which is the urban renewal area. There is the South Hermiston Industrial District, which we feel is very aspirational, as businesses are trying to go, well, where do you have your industrial land? We'll have wayfinding and district signage and say this is where our industrial center is. And then the medical district, because as Good Shepherd has grown, we've seen a lot of additional medical offices that have grown up on the land around it. So it's all appropriately zoned for medical around there. So we've aspirationally said, let's try to create our own medical district, and that will create that perception that that's where you go for medical services and for associated services, where maybe we'll start seeing some restaurants who want to locate there to help out employees and patients. So basically, that we had the 3 districts, and then we created some overall signage plans that we then took out to our steering committee, which was made up of the Chamber, the Good Shepherd School District, ODOT, a few other parties as well, and did some public feedback, did a public work session here prior to COVID, and then online surveys as well to get feedback on signage. The draft signage required a little modification, but was generally pretty popular. So when we presented that to the council last fall, we were really in a position where we were about 75% complete, and we're now ready to bring back those 75% drawings at 100% based on public feedback and city council feedback to kind of present and be ready for adoption. So just running through some of the standard things that have been developed, we have what we call our gateway standards, which are scalable depending on where in town you're intended to go. They're intended to be for all of the entrances. When you're on something like 395, you would be looking at something large, like this broad gateway, which you'll note we included that we are building an inclusive community language. That was very important to the council when we discussed it. As you're coming in on something smaller, like a Highland or a Diagonal, we can go with a smaller, less expensive, less obtrusive gateway concept. And then as you're coming in on just minor streets, we have smaller ones as well. So really scalable depending on the level of traffic and the speeds. Individual districts in town, we developed basically standards to sign as you're entering. So let's say you're coming into the downtown on Hermiston Avenue, you might go past a gateway sign that says you're coming into the downtown here. We also wanted to make sure we had Spanish language options, and that was very important. Lily has informed me that perhaps Centrico may actually be something regional on the part of the consultant, and that here it should say El Centro, and we will make sure we get that changed. But at the time that this was prepared, that's what we were going with. Here you can kind of see some additional gateway areas just to let you know where you are, especially for the Festival Street. This is something that goes all the way back to 2009 probably, when we first developed the basic concept of a Festival Street, was to have some kind of an arch at each end of it. And so you can see we now have a standard that will allow for vehicle transit underneath and just really let you know where you are. You can see also the banner standards that I had discussed at our budget meeting, and will really help you to just have something decorative to let you know what part of town you're in. These are signed with the downtown standard, and then district signs for the industrial district, medical district as well. This is the real bread and butter of a wayfinding plan. These are your vehicular sign standards that you would put on your roads directing to your public places. So you can see the downtown, safety center, Mackenzie Park, these type of things. These are, as you're coming in on 395, driving down Highland, we have a signage plan that has a place and a message schedule for each one of these signs. And then over here, I just wanted to include what's our number one priority that we'll move with right after the first of the year, getting parking signs into all of the public parking lots. All of the lots have been numbered now. We have 8 lots total if you include the ones over by the post office. So we'll have 8 public parking lots that will be signed. And then we also developed, in conjunction with the Parks and Rec Department, a new park signage standard that will help bring their signage into the same stylistic design as the overall wayfinding plan. In your plan, you also have just the overall location plan. What I've got here, just the 4 quadrants of the city that kind of give you a jumble of what you're looking at, but basically each one of these colors and number schemes deals with a different type of item. So you might see a purple sign, that's where a pedestrian kiosk would be eventually. A blue sign will be a vehicular guidance sign. A red sign will be a trail marker. And so through all the quadrants of the city, as you're looking at the location plan, you can just look at the color and number and know exactly what type of sign will go there. What I have given the council tonight does not have the individual places for the signs. We have that in the plan. The consultant and I actually went through and visited each spot that a sign will actually be installed to message it out, just for brevity. I did not include that for the council, but I do have that and it's always available to review. Just kind of the real, like I said, how we started with the downtown being the main focus, you can really see these green signs that are all over. These are going to be those individual parking signs that will be attached to each light pole that's going into one of our parking lots. And from over here on Orchard, Robert, Gladys, and behind the library. Those are all publicly owned lots. Now, a plan like this is really modular, so we can build as much or as little of it as we want. That we're focusing on the parking with this first year. The city council should definitely consider whether or not budgeting in each year moving forward for additional signage is a priority. The overall budget that the consultant estimates is about $805,000 for everything. If you were to build everything exactly as it is in the pictures, and as I said, it's modular. We can build as little or as much as we want moving forward.
Thank you, Clint. So the allocation for the wayfinding signs downtown, those dollars can be spent out of urban renewal dollars.
That's correct.
Okay, so how much have we allocated of that 805 for urban renewal funds?
48,000.
48. Okay. And that will take care of all the downtown parking signage as well as location signages, City Hall,
That
library.
will take care of all of the parking and the on-road directionals to that. We're hoping we'll have enough left over to work with some interactive kiosks as well, but we'll see.
And that's in our current budget for this year?
Yeah.
All right. And the other question I had, Mr. Smith, we had talked previously about wayfinding signs and dollar allocation. Did we allocate funds in this year's budget for this?
Didn't allocate specific, but we do have some potential dollars to start looking at. The area I'd like to start working on would be some of our park signage, as we've done some things. For example, in Butte Park, I'd like to maybe upgrade some of those signs around there and start maybe in that way, in a small way, but start making our parks a little a way to start this wayfinding plan.
So if we took the 48 off of there, we're talking 750,000 essentially still to do the whole ball of wax. If we looked at that, I don't know, over a 5-year period or 7-year period, whatever, allocation of 100,000, 150,000 a year, we could accomplish this over a period of time. Obviously, there's a cost escalation in there, and then you also have the challenge of trying to keep up with the appearance so that they all are consistent and look similar and they're not faded and color changes and all that sort of stuff. So if we don't do it in a fairly quick fashion, you could get kind of out of sync a little bit. So do you have some thoughts plan-wise as far as time?
We were waiting to kind of get this all finalized before we started breaking it down too closely, but we'll start taking a look at it kind of timing-wise. I think probably a 5-year implementation is, something we could work on. And like Clint said, that's every single sign. We might be able to kind of make it fit our budget a little bit better and still, still look professional and like we want it to be. We'll start taking a closer look each year as we put together our budget.
Yeah, I really like the entrance monument signs would probably be a high priority for me personally, just because I think it starts the tone. And so when people start seeing that consistency right when they first enter and then see it throughout the town, then it makes more sense. So that would probably be one of my priorities that I would vote for right away.
Mm-hmm.
Other comments council-wise? Council?
Well, I noticed that the entryway sign coming in on 395 was taken down by the airport. So, and I'm assuming that's part of the airport roadway project that they're doing out there.
The sign wasn't necessarily a part of the roadway project, but that is one of the main entryway signs that we currently have. So we'll be taking a look at that.
Yeah, so.
It was removed?
Mark, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, that came down in a recent Hermiston.
Oh, okay.
It was interesting because the airport sign itself has always looked like it's about to fall over.
Right.
And that one, it just blew off. So I don't know if Larry's guys came out and picked it up or what, but it's been down for about a month.
Okay, I didn't realize our Hermiston took it down. So
Good place to start with
That
the
would be a
entryway
good one to
signs.
start with.
yeah, there's a great opportunity.
All right, other questions by the council? Yes,
No,
Councilor.
no question, just comment. I'm just really impressed with the Wayfinding sign program that's been established, and the ideas that have gone in. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the designs, and it does give us more of a sense of home, sense of presence, and especially like the districts, how they're labeled out. I think that's a really great idea of maybe attracting businesses or just giving it more of a place of self. I really do like the Spanish as well and the inclusive community. I just want to comment on that and really say how I think that's really meaningful to the community in terms of building an inclusive community and showing it. So I'm really, really impressed, and I think Lily's comments are accurate. I think El Centro would be the best for that lettering, but that's all I got to say. I'm really, really impressed. Thank you very much for the work on this.
Yeah, thank you, Clint. I know that it's been a community project for quite some time. We took a lot of community feedback and input, and the council has weighed in on it multiple times as well, but I think it's something we can really be proud of, and I think the community will also be very proud of as well. We just have to get it out there and get it going. So, any public comment this evening? So I need a motion to approve the wayfinding program. Been moved by Councilor Spicer-Coon, seconded by Councilor Duran, that we approve the city wayfinding program. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. April 2021 financial report. I'm guessing that's Mr. K?
That's correct.
All right, Mr. K. Welcome back, by the way. We missed you the other night.
Apologize to the council being out of pocket, not feeling well last Thursday night at the budget meeting, the one meeting of the year. I look forward to meeting our budget committee. I felt bad. I apologize to City Manager Smith for not being there, just because that's what I do. I keep track of dollars. So thank you for understanding that I was not feeling well.
You must not.
I couldn't walk a straight line. I looked like a drunk trying to walk to my car. I'm not proud of that.
No good.
Financial report for April. We always start looking at the Urban Renewal Agency. We have got almost 5% more than projected in property tax collections. That bodes well for us going forward. I think it will be the trend going forward as more development occurs in the downtown area. We have projected an increase in the budget that will not be substantial, but it will not be piecemeal either. So there should be possibly some revenues coming through the renewal agency to be able to help further with the wayfinding signs, just as an aside. And keep in mind, we have 2 months left to go. We may be able to pick up some more revenue there. In the general fund, Actual revenue was just short of $445,000 for the month. We had a franchise payment came in a month late that bumped us up really big. I would point to you that we are right now 8.3% above where we thought we would be on revenue for a lot of different reasons. As we go forward into May and June, as you know, we will be having a lot of parks programs happening. But when we have programs happening that generate some revenue that we supplement, we also will have expenses. So the next slide here, we are doing very well managing our expenses. We're down almost $2 million in savings this year. We have cut expenses to the bone in general fund departments. As always, our department heads in the general fund are very good at doing only mission critical expenses. I think they will continue to do that through the end of June, but we will see some increases in expenses due to the things that go on in support of our summer programs and the costs of maintaining the pool and paying the people to be the lifeguards and whatnot. Again, 14.8% versus projected. We're doing really well. I show this every month because I think it's important to see the extent to which some departments have been able to find savings that would be considered not mission critical. A big kudos to Chief Hermiston and the police operations area. They're 7% below on their budget. We also have court that they have been able to manage their processes enough with the new system that they're not going to be spending as much money as we budgeted. But we also have a lot of departments that are just right now, because of where we've been in the year, are below budget, like the pool and recreation. Those are the two places I would see in May and June that we will see increases in their expenses as they fire up. They've got the pool filled. They're working on it now. They've got, I guess, training their lifeguard crew, as well as allowing, I guess, the schools to use it. We also have a lot of recreation programs that are kicking off. So there will be some effect of that. I don't think we will be as successful in maintaining our expense containment in those areas, but still in all a very positive message. So general fund balance, right now, we are right at 2 times our minimum reserve of $1,867,000. I am hopeful. I just got today from the League of Cities the stuff about how we are going to be apportioned our ARP money. I'm hopeful that by June we have that. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I look to that when we put that in the general fund as kind of to sit and wait till we exhaust all other opportunities to see us through our annual drought period, if you will, on funding as we get into September and October. Right now, we're not sitting too bad at the end of June, but that's because we haven't been spending.
Pardon me? We lost your mic. Oh.
Why does it just shut off? Battery's going dead. Well, that's appropriate for an old guy. Thank you, sir. I'll put that one over there and turn it off. So as we look at the utility and street funds, everybody is looking good this time of year. Again, not that they have limited resources, but where they are with capital projects is just one of those things. Regional water funds a little down on their resource side with revenues, but HES, the utility fund, water and wastewater, and street fund are looking pretty solid. I would give kudos to Mr. Morgan on where he guesses we were going to be in revenue. We're within 1% of where it was forecast for the year, and they're saving 20% on expenditures. So those funds are doing very well in managing their operations as well. Then we get to our capital projects. Ridgeway water line, for all intents and purposes, is completed from the actual job being done, but there's still invoices coming in. That's how we measure where we are as percentage complete. I also know that The backup generator has got a little bit of expenses. They're going to be kicking off. I'm not sure about the lift station upgrade and 7th Street sewer replacement. But we have nominal dollars spent to date on those projects, but they're on the horizon. They will be kicking off. Then the council asked about other things going on in the city that weren't in the CIP plan. The airport apron rehab, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Morgan, but that's going to be kicking off pretty quick here, is it not? July? Okay. So nominal dollars for now, but they will start building and be done probably by October, if I remember right. So that'll be completed by year end, by calendar year end. The Riverfront Park rebuild, we're waiting on some FEMA stuff. Library renovation, to my way of thinking, Mr. Smith, is pretty much done except for paying a few bills, okay? Then we have the new City Hall. Every time we have one of our Hermiston wins, I look at the fencing and wonder if it's going to stay up or not. But you got a big hole in the ground now, and you see them forming things up. And then Funland rebuild, I think if I hadn't been able to get a hold of Larry to see where he is on his projected timeline, I'm hopeful that they hit their timeline for dedication. It's looking really nice up there. And with that, that's all I've got. I'd be glad to stand any questions the council might have.
Councilors, any questions this evening? No, I want to thank the staff for their hard work on maintaining expenses. You know, there's a lot of uncertainty this year, and so, you know, nobody knew we were going to get ARPA funds. You know, we had spent a significant, was it $600,000 in excess budget last year, and so the departments were all asked to kind of tighten their belts a little bit and hold down expenses, and so obviously they did a great job of that, and I appreciate all of their hard work and helping to balance the budget too. It sounds like be able to loosen up a little bit more here in the near future as we get some more certainty around the ARPA funds, but it's a good report. Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you, sir.
Mayor. Any other comments, questions, concerns? No. All right. Any public comment on the financial report? Can I get a motion to accept the April financial report as presented?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Harden, seconded by Councilor Barone, that we accept the April 2021 financial report. Roll call.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Committee reports. Any city committee or liaison reports this evening?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. On.
Mr. Barone and I attended the Hispanic Advisory Committee, and it was a very interesting meeting, as we heard from Rosa from the Umatilla County Housing Authority. She came to explain to us some of the requirements for folks to be able to apply for the housing that is available not only in Boardman but in the Hermiston area. So we learned a lot through her presentation, and we also heard from Julia Galan with Martha's House, and she also gave us information about, you know, what their goals and objectives are, and also how it's not a permanent solution, but it's more like a place where people kind of can get their bearings and be able to move forward with the plan. So it was nice to hear, you know, that they have a lot of support as well there at Martha's House, so that folks are able to transition into more of a permanent housing. And we also heard from the interim president of BMCC, and heard great ideas as to how they are looking to engage the community and still, you know, attract students from the area. And we also were able to provide some ideas to her as to maybe perhaps how we, the Hispanic community, can work closely, you know, with BMCC to hopefully bring down any barriers that students might have. And it was also good to have Lily Gomez there. Also, she stopped by to once again let us know that she was running for a position on the school board. So it was a very informational meeting that I thought had a lot of great information, and it'll be useful for us to be able to share that with, some of our constituents. I don't know if I missed something, Mr. Barone?
No, right on point. It was a really interesting hack meeting, and it's great. Like time after time, we've had great people come and speak and present information. We also made a decision to continue having hack throughout the summer. In the past, it had been we'd postpone or go on sabbatical due to like a lot of our population that would come to the meetings would end up being at work during harvesting season. But again, with the pandemic, there were still very few people in the audience, but we were still able to share information. So we just decided to continue and host meetings all the rest of the year, at least so we can continue to share this information and continue having good people come and present and let us know what's going on in the community and how we can help them as well. I had a great time listening to all the presenters. All of them were really interesting. I've never heard from the Housing Authority before at the county, so it was really interesting seeing and knowing that, where their locations were at, how many units they actually had, and just seeing like if there was a lot of vacancy, not a lot of vacancy, but just as we all know, it's really hard to find a place still in town. And so even I believe they have about a year to a year and a half waiting list. And so and that's between all the apartments in Hermiston and Boardman and everywhere else. So it was interesting to hear, just to know that for a fact, right? Because maybe one can assume about a lot of different things, but just knowing that, it was difficult to hear. But at the same time, we kind of knew it was reality that everyone's kind of having a hard time finding the housing. So it's really great knowing here, at least on the city, that what we're trying to do to promote more housing, but just kind of hearing that feedback back and forth, just know that there's still a lot more work to do. But other than that, hearing from the BMTC's interim president was also really refreshing. They're trying to start the organization back, or restructure the organization, I should say, and seeing how it can be effective. With the personnel that they have, I believe they had to cut back on $1.9 million, which is a lot of personnel, a lot of different programs, and so they're trying to find out how can they continue moving forward while still meeting the need of our community and so on and so forth. So it was a great meeting, so I really enjoyed it.
Excellent. Good to hear you're going to continue the meetings through the summer too. It's exciting. Other committee liaisons? Nothing? All right. Mayor's report. I just want to say a special thank you to the Budget Committee and the members of the Budget Committee that participated, all of you counselors, as well as our public members that participated. It was a good process. Mr. Smith presented us a good budget and understandable, and I enjoy the new packet and the presentation. The print was probably a little small, even for an eye guy, but
Wow, I think we need to record that.
Right?
That's the first time.
I am aging too, so it was a struggle for me as well, even with high quality eyewear like mine. So it was a good process, and I appreciate everybody's partnership in helping us get through that. It's a legal requirement and a legal hurdle for us, and so to get members of the community to volunteer and show up and help us with that process is always valuable, and so I appreciate all those members. We had a town hall meeting with Senator Merkley last week. Had a special kind of get together for Umatilla County leaders ahead of that, and so we got to have some one-on-one time with Senator Merkley. Just kind of expressed our concerns regarding workforce and trying to figure out some solutions to encourage more people to get back into the workforce and look for some federal support regarding that. Lots of good conversation was had by the regional leadership during his town hall. I don't know if any of you got to attend the regular town hall meeting, but it's always good to attend those and hear what's on the agendas. For Senator Merkley, I pushed him for our GREAT project, which is on the community-initiated list of projects for the federal government. So I tried to encourage him to make sure that that one was on his agenda. But it was a good conversation. I also participated in the League of Oregon Cities Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. We're still working through the process of trying to figure out how we can make that process more salient to all cities, and so trying to engage it not only at the administrative level at the league, but how that can transition throughout the league and through all the cities, and trying to make it palatable and easily understood and implementable. And so we're still working through that conversation. It's a fairly new organization. It's been around a couple years now that we've been working on it. So trying to broaden our scope to make sure it's getting out to everybody as part of the league. Want to congratulate, we had an election. Not sure that everybody knew that or not, but we had an election last week. We didn't have a great turnout, but there were some election winners, and I want to congratulate all the winners as well as the fire district. We saw Chief Stanton here last meeting talking about the fire district and its bond levy, and so it was good to see them win and get some additional funds from the community to help support fire safety. And then last, I just wanted to remind the community about the Funland cleanup project. I believe that's Thursday night? Thursday evening, I believe, at 5:30. And it's essentially just helping to clean up the brand new facility to make sure it's ready for the pour in place, which I think is going to start the week after.
That's correct.
So just trying to get in the concrete, the spillover and dirt and dust off the project, so the new project is, or the new poured in place rubberized material goes in nice and clean, and everything looks good for its grand opening, which is going to be happening sometime soon.
Still on target for July 4th.
Right on. Okay. How about other council reports? Yes, Councilor Durham?
So the other thing that I want to add in regards to the budget committee is that I appreciated seeing some of the department heads there as well. I know it calls for a long evening, but your presence was duly noted, and I really appreciate it. I also would like to thank Daniel for live streaming the budget committee meeting as well as our meetings. I know that Jade posted a tweet that she said she enjoyed watching it from the comfort of her own home and being able to follow other things that were going on that evening, as well as I think there was another viewer as well. So it's just, it's another way that we can give the community an opportunity to look at the process and how it plays out. So thank you so much for doing that. I also want to thank the city for allowing some of the city employees to be able to participate as volunteers in It's a Fab Life. The event took place last week at Hermiston High School, and it's an event that allows our seniors to be able to get an idea what adulting life is like. I think, a lot of the students, our children, pretty much, live a sheltered life when it comes to knowing about choices and payments and those kinds of things. So this is an opportunity for them to get a taste of what adult life is like. So I saw Holly there, I saw Lily there. I was not able to make it the next day, but I'm sure that there were other volunteers. So in general, I want to thank the community members that also gave of their time on these 2 days in order for the seniors to be able to experience this activity. And this Thursday, there is going to be a parade for the seniors. So I will be participating in that because we will be taking pictures of that. But as community, we're invited to participate. They will be taking off from Kenniston Field, I believe, at 7 o'clock. Don't quote me on the time because I have a lot of times on my mind right now. But I believe it's at 7, and they will go down Highland, then Orchard, and then we'll complete there. And at 9:30 in the evening, we'll be come to a conclusion, I guess, with some fireworks at Butte Park. So you're more than welcome to cheer on your neighbors, your friends, your relatives, any seniors that you may know, as you know, the parade is for the seniors and the community as well.
Great. Other counselors?
Well,
Counselors?
I was able to go and visit the art festival that we had. I think that was 2 weekends ago, and that was a lot of fun. And it's nice to see things getting back into more normal mode so that we can have these festivals and we can bring the community together to do things. My kids really appreciated being able to paint tiles for the new art project in Funland. I don't know if that's still something other kids can get involved in or if that's closed, but they had a little booth down there. And kids or any community member could go in and paint a tile that would be included in a mural at Funland Park. So my kids are looking forward to being able to find their tiles when they're doing that. My kids also just got done with the soccer program from the Parks and Recs District. I think that's a great thing, and I'm glad that the park does that on top of the other sports programs that we do. And I like to see our Parks and Rec department. It's very active. I've lived in quite a few different places, and I think we have one of the most active Parks and Rec departments of anywhere I've been, just getting activities done and doing things. So it's great to see that. It's great to see these things happening and everybody moving forward with their lives right now.
Yeah, perfect. I saw the soccer program going on there at Butte Park, and it's great to see all the little kids out there participating in youth activities again. I also saw the community bazaar that happened here a couple weekends ago, and I know Maxwell Farmers Market, the community farmers market, will open up this Thursday, I believe.
That's correct.
So got a lot of, like Councilor Spicer Barone, or Spicer Kuhn, combining both of you guys together. Spicer Kuhn had mentioned that it's nice to see the community getting back out and engaging in social activities and some feelings of more normalcy. Other comments from councilors? Councilor Barone?
Yes, had the pleasure of going to my second People of Color Caucus meeting that we had through the, geez, I'm losing my train of thought now. League of Oregon Cities, holy cow. Through the League of Oregon Cities. So we actually got to hear from the president of the Oregon School Board Association Color Caucus, which is really great. Now we're kind of networking with similar groups in the School Board Association side of things. So it was really great to be able to hear from them and their process of building up a caucus as well, and seeing how we can replicate that, take the good obviously that they've done, and if they have any challenges, they let us know that. So we're prepared for it. We're also preparing an equity training recommendation to the League of Oregon Cities for the Equity and Inclusion Committee. So I think that's the one that you're on, right, Mayor? So we're going to be recommending a training, an equity training for the League of Oregon Cities. And so we kind of wanted to make it a little bit more custom, something more fitted for Oregon, fitted for us. And so that's one of the projects that we're currently working on. Besides that, have an upcoming meeting for a homelessness discussion and action planning with the Morrow County Veterans Office, scheduled for tomorrow. So I'm interested to hear what they got to say and the plans for this moving forward. I know that homelessness has been a topic that's been talked about in our community in different circles. So I look forward to attending and seeing the ideas that they have set forth. And that's pretty much what I've done this week.
Excellent. Last but not least, Councilor Harden, do you want to say anything?
But I did attend the shelter and homeless webinar that we had.
Yeah, I don't think your microphone's working either.
Yeah. And
Maybe Gary? Okay.
splashing right on.
There you go.
So work?
Yep.
Yeah. And I was a little disappointed. It was, of course, their main focus was on Project Turnkey, which basically the motel conversion, apparently, House Bill 3261 passed and it's effective as of May the 12th. And but they also had another bill that's emergency shelter city, effective May the 6th. So they are. It was quite informative, but I'm looking forward to some more things along this line, so that because I know there's a lot of work that's probably going on behind the scenes at this point, and but it's definitely. I think our solution is going to end up being regional more than just local here. So I think that's kind of the direction that we're. Looks like it's moving, and I know that I'm sure that the county is going to be a part of this whole solution before it's all said and done. So anyhow, and of course the weekly League of Oregon Cities session is my wife got after me because I spent about 2.5 hours just one day on just all of these seminars, and so I think she thought I was sleeping or something. I don't know, 12 months. But anyhow, but it's very informative and good. And I think I just encourage everyone to grab a hold of it, because it's nice that if you can't make the time, it's still there and available to you. So that's and I think the League of Oregon Cities have been working extra hard to make sure that they're staying in contact with the cities and being proactive in all of this. And so I think we're going to reap some good benefits because of it. That's what I know.
Yeah, all the League of Cities phone calls are recorded, so you can listen to those at any time.
Yep.
You know, I sometimes miss them on Fridays because the day job thing gets in the way, but, you know, I'll listen to them on Saturday morning or something while I'm working out, and they're always very informative. You're right. There's always something there that probably wouldn't known or got caught up on, and so it's a great opportunity for you to hear what's going on at the state and how the League of Oregon Cities is fighting for you in cities. One of the things that unfortunately we found out about, Mr. Smith, maybe you can talk to this legislatively and how that may impact us, is the prevailing wage bill and what that means to our community and the projects that we already have in the pipeline. I don't know that that's today, but I believe there's an emergency clause attached to it, and so its implementation and when that would go into place, maybe you can answer that for me.
I'm not 100% sure. I think projects that are already through the bidding process would not be impacted, but, you know, the projects that I was most concerned about are, you know, we have millions of dollars in our capital improvement plan that potentially just, that whole number just got increased by 20 to 30%. So that reduces what we can accomplish under our current funding scenarios. So it's going to have an impact. We don't know the full impact of it yet.
It'd be interesting to maybe, Mr. Morgan, once we get kind of more information about the details of that plan, what that does to our community improvement plan and how we can recapitalize that resources and what that means to essentially the taxpayers and the users. And so, you know, that fee that we just increased, what does that mean and what does that look like? And are we going to be in a shortfall situation now where we projected we were going to be okay? So I'd like to look at that long term to see what kind of impacts that looks like. And maybe we bring it in front of the CIP committee first and then bring it back. But it no doubtably will have an impact on future projects. Thank you. Do you have other stuff this evening, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I have just a couple of items. As I kind of mentioned already, Funland, we're still on track to do the grand opening July 4th. Hopefully to have a soft opening mid-June as the poured-in-place surface gets completed. And like you stated, Mayor, there's going to be a cleanup project. They're inviting a lot of the service clubs and other groups around the community to come help on Thursday evening to just get things ready for the crew, the specialty crew, to come in next week. So, and I forgot at our last meeting, there were more of them here in the room, but these all are going to end up at Funland, the various animals. There's a couple out in the front, if you look in the front vestibule as well. And some of the vegetables are starting to get in place. If you haven't been by there, it's really starting to change a lot. So it's exciting to see that project come together, and I know it's going to be something the community will be proud of. So then the other piece, if you've been by the City Hall project, they have the first footings poured, and you can see the rebar coming up for some of the first walls that they will be putting in place. And so we're excited to see, even in a small extent, the project start to come out of the ground. And they'll be working tomorrow and the next day on the sewer line in the alleys, and so things are continuing to move forward. It's exciting to see that.
So we had received a little bit of feedback on that sewer line. It's going to be down for how long, and what accommodations are we making for the business owners there?
So there are a number of shutdowns, but the one is just a one-day shutdown. So it'll be shut down on the west for one day, west of 2nd Street, and then one day east of 2nd Street. And we will be trying to minimize that. Then the first part of June, the west businesses will have another shutdown as the water line is replaced and new connections are made. And then later on, as we get closer to the end, the west side water line will be replaced. So contractors really been doing a good job communicating with the businesses. It's not always a pleasant conversation. They're not always happy, but we're trying to do the best that we can to minimize the impact, but improve the long-term infrastructure for those businesses.
Yeah, the projects, or the parking lot's really starting to look nice too, and I'm glad to see that they took out the elevated agricultural boxes or whatever, concrete curb. I hit that thing all the time, so I'm glad. I'm not sure why I didn't pop a tire yet, but it's glad to see that's gone, and it looks like it'll be a lot. Is it going to be a parking lot similar to like the senior center?
There will be a little bit more decorative items in there. There will be some trees and so forth, but it will be a lot cleaner on the inside. We're going to add about 11 spaces to the layout because we can not have those little concrete walls in the middle of the parking areas. So we're excited. I think it's going to be much better. It's painful right now, but it'll be better in the end.
Upgraded parking lot lights as well?
Yes, new lights. There will also be 2 electric vehicle charging stations placed in there. So any community members that have that need will be able to bring their vehicles downtown.
Very good. Very good. And I understand the banner project is going gangbusters, like sold out, right?
Yes, I think they would like us to find more poles for them to put banners on. And we're doing the best we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's been a good partnership, it seems like, with that group, and I look forward to seeing that banner program put in place, as well as the wayfinding sign downtown and new parking lot, and it's really going to spruce it up down there a lot.
Yes, it will.
Anything else, Mr. Smith?
Those are it. Thank you.
All right. We are adjourned.